All right, what's going on, y'all? This is Sean from MassWap Tutoring, and I'm just going to give a couple of moments here for people to come on. Let me see. Give me a second here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well this morning. I'm excited to talk about what I'm talking about today, which is how to lower your A1C. Okay, and I've had a lot of people here at a recent um, let me share this real quick. But I've had a lot of people at a recent health uh, vendor fair that I went to ask me about this. Um, and I think it's important to talk about it now. Before I get into the nitty gritty of this, I will say that I am not I'm not like a health professional from the standpoint of like a MD, doctor, physician, or whatever. So, this is not to be taken as medical advice or anything like that. Always, notify your physician or your doctor about any changes that you make to your lifestyle. Okay. So, make sure you do that. Um, but yeah, so all of that said, we're going to get into this because I believe that we have to understand that there is a lot that we can do for our health. And that's always what I'm talking about here, whether it has to do with like, you know, um, just general overall fitness and health, or like even things that we do that cause us to kind of like be more susceptible to common lifestyle diseases. We talk about those things here so we can kind of know what we can do, instead of just thinking that we just got like some sort of luck of the draw when it actually wasn't that. Um yeah, here, so hold on a second. I'm just sharing this real quick. All right. And give me a second here. I just need to here we go. There we go. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this here. All right. So we're talking this morning about what you can do to lower A1C. Okay. So if you're somebody who has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, or something like that, then most likely you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we're gonna get into it. And this is even for those of you who have known what I'm talking about, because I want you to learn a little bit more about what A1C is actually discussing. It's very important, very, very interesting. Um, and just key for like understanding your overall health. Okay. So, and perhaps next time I do slides, I didn't realize the way that I'm doing this today, I didn't realize that I would be able to have slides, but it's all good. So, A1C, capital A, number one, and then capital C. What is that? So the A1C test is a blood test that you get a lot of times whenever you go to get a checkup, and it will show up on your blood test results as typically a percentage. But what is it? It's also referred to as either the hemoglobin A1C or glycated hemoglobin A1C test. Okay. And specifically, what the A1C test is testing is the amount of glucose in your bloodstream over a 3-month period. I've seen some people say 2-3 month period. But yeah, we'll say over a 3-month period. So you have three specific ranges that help you. Excuse me. You have three specific um kind of like range numbers to kind of consider. And this is helping you to determine whether or not you have diabetes or pre-diabetes or whatever, as well as if you do have one of those issues, it helps you to know if you're moving in the right direction as far as like if your treatment plan is working. So if you have less than 5.7%, then that's considered good. That means that you don't have any sort of diabetes or pre-diabetes. If you have between 5.7 and 6.4%, you consider it to be pre-diabetic. That means that you are moving in the direction of diabetes. And then if you have greater than 6.5%, then you consider it diabetic, type 2 diabetic to be specific. Okay. And so and just in case you aren't aware of what diabetes is, diabetes, and I'm just talking about type 2 today, but it's a situation where your body is having an issue regulating your blood sugar. Typically, it shows up as a lot of glucose in your bloodstream, and what happens is your body is either having a hard time producing enough insulin, or your body, typically this is the way it is with type 2, your body has become resistant to its own insulin, no matter how much your pancreas puts out. And so now you're having issues with blood sugar. By the way, which is very very damaging to bodily tissues because your body does not do well with a lot of sugar in the bloodstream. That's why typically your body will use insulin to get it out of there and get it into your cells and stuff like that. But once that starts working in diabetes, then damage starts to happen. Now, you probably remember a couple of minutes ago, I said that another name for the A1C test is glycated hemoglobin A1C test. So let's break it down because I'm not going to assume that we know what glycated means. I'm not going to assume that we know what hemoglobin means. Okay. And so let's talk about it. Let me see something here. I realized that okay, it's okay. All right. So let's talk about it. What is glycation? So glycation is when sugar molecules adhere to proteins um, in your body when there is a lot of sugar present. So basically, what happens is you have a lot of sugar present in your body, and that sugar, at the molecular level, adheres to kind of like when I hear adhere, I hear like glue. It adheres to proteins in your body. So stuff like the collagen in your body or the elastin in your collagen, you think about like skin and connective tissues. Same thing with elastin, you think skin. You have the epithelium, I think that's how you refer to it, in your blood vessels, like different proteins that kind of make up the various connective tissues of your body. Again, skin, blood vessels and whatnot. And so you have these sugar molecules that are like essentially glued to those proteins. And so it's like they stick to them. So, think about sugar anyway. Sugar, gets sticky. Like if you spill some fruit juice on yourself, it's sticky. So that's kind of like essentially what's happening with the proteins in your body whenever there's a lot of sugar present. Um, so sugar molecules are kind of glued to those proteins, and it makes the proteins more rigid, so to speak, resulting in what are referred to as AGES, AGES. And that is an acronym that stands for Advanced Glycation End Products. So that acronym, and I've heard one of the people I follow, Dr. Mark Hyman, I've heard him refer to these a lot. That acronym is very appropriate because it literally um advanced glycation end products literally are kind of resulting in you aging at a faster rate. Okay. So again, think about this. So excess sugar in your bloodstream is causing you to develop sticky proteins in your body, sticky proteins in your skin, which is causing your skin to wrinkle faster. Sticky proteins in, sticky collagen. So like basically the collagen that makes up your skin and the elastin that makes up your skin and the um the blood vessels, they're getting sticky, they're getting rigid, so they're aging faster. And what happens is that rigidity is bad. It's bad. And it causes your those tissues to get more rigid. They're not as flexible as they used to be. So think about, what do you think happens whenever your blood vessels become rigid and less flexible? That means higher blood pressure. That means increased risk of catastrophic events like strokes and heart attacks. So, what is hemoglobin? Remember, glycated hemoglobin, A1C. Hemoglobin is a protein in your blood that's responsible for oxygen transport. So basically, you know that your blood transports oxygen throughout your body. And so hemoglobin is the protein that is in your blood that actually does that work. Um, so the A1C test is a measure of how the hemoglobin in your bloodstream is being glycated. Okay. So basically, what happens is hemoglobin is yet another protein that sugar, sugar molecules, when you have excess sugar, are binding to. Okay. So it's essentially a measure of how your hemoglobin is being glycated, giving you even a window into the aging of your body by excess sugar intake. Okay, and by your body's increasing inability to regulate its own sugar. Okay, so again, when you go and get your A1C test, if you have a high level or an increasing level of, like above 5.7% A1C, you are aging faster. Period. You're aging faster because this sugar is gluing to the proteins in your body, and again, it's making your skin less elastic, more wrinkly. It's making your blood vessels, more rigid, less elastic. It's causing you to age at a faster rate. That's part of like the whole damaging, um why sugar is so damaging to the bodily tissues, because it kind of glues to them. Okay. So this is something that I've heard a lot about, and I did some more research before I did this webinar this morning, and it's really kind of been an eye opener for me, because I think a lot of times when we think A1C, I want to lower my A1C. It just kind of is what it is. It's just kind of like a number to lower. We know it has something to do with diabetes, but we don't really know fully what it's talking about and the implications of it. Okay, so like this is well, I can't say real time because it is a measure of your A1C over 3 months, but this is um like a real insight into like what's happening in regard to the sugar in your body and the damage that it is doing. Okay, and so you want to lower that. You want to lower that. Now, so as I was saying, excess sugar ages your whole body, your skin, your blood vessels, and then of course think about the fact that blood vessels go throughout your whole body. So that's why a lot of times people who have advanced type 2 diabetes have issues with eyes, have issues with peripheral body parts like feet and stuff like that, where the nerves are kind of like messing up and whatnot, because the blood vessels are messing up because of glycation, and therefore, excess sugar, this is why excess sugar and diabetes is associated with so many different chronic diseases. Even if you don't have diabetes, obviously a lot of sugar can be problematic. We already know that excess sugar also can contribute to obesity and being overweight. So, um, again, because of the gluing of proteins, high A1C or excess sugar in the diet, especially in advanced diabetes, associated with aneurysms, high blood pressure, strokes, because again, it's stiffening those blood vessels. It's also a part of what contributes to the production of amyloid proteins in the brain. And in case you haven't heard of those amyloid proteins, those are associated with Alzheimer's disease. You've probably heard me mention before this whole thing uh, about how Alzheimer's disease is considered a form of diabetes. Some call it type 3 diabetes. Okay. So it's not just like some sort of, as we would refer to it, old timers disease. It's literally, um, it literally has to do with excess sugar. Okay. Now, I'm not going to necessarily be too definitive on that, but just based on all the many things I've researched and heard over the years and whatnot, it is referred by a lot of people, it's referred to as type 3 diabetes, like diabetes, specifically how it affects the brain. Okay. So that is huge. That's huge. Now, sources of sugar, we know obviously candy and soft drinks and sweet tea and all that kind of stuff are a huge source of sugar. That's probably the main one. But then also you have like a lot of starchy foods and white bread foods, like, buns on hamburgers and hot dogs and pastries and cakes and all that kind of stuff. Major sources of sugar. You also have natural sources of sugar like fruits and vegetables, in their varying levels. Okay. Processed foods in general, like the ones I was mentioning, tend to have very, very high levels of sugar because when people make processed foods, they're gonna like hyper sweeten them, hyper salt them, to make them more desirable, aka addictive, to you and I, so that we'll buy more and we'll increase the company's bottom line. And I guess that's capitalism, but at the same time, it's capitalism that you have to understand so you don't end up on the wrong side of it. Okay. Now, the type of sugar actually matters. So you have glucose, you have sucrose, and you have is it fructose? Fructose. I think it's fructose. Now, glucose is the form of sugar that your body uses to fuel your body. Okay. Fructose is also referred to as fruit sugar, but that's how sugar presents itself typically in fruits and vegetables. You've probably heard of high fructose corn syrup. Fructose is in corn, and what happens is they pull that fructose out and use that. Fructose is sweeter. I think it's the sweetest kind of, I guess, sugar, if you will. And then you have sucrose, which has both glucose and fructose in it. Sucrose is what you call table sugar. It's like sugar in the form that we usually use it with the white powder and everything. Okay. Now, I wasn't really fully aware of this before, but fructose is really the most problematic of the sugars. That's why you had this big buzz not too long ago about fructose and how bad it was, and then when people start not referring to high fructose corn syrup as that anymore, but they start referring to it as corn sugar to take the name away, so we would no longer think about that and they could kind of still continue to put it in there. um, but fructose is apparently most problematic out of all of those because, at least among other things, fructose has 10 times the glycation activity of glucose. So fructose is more problematic because it will glycate at a much higher level than glucose. Now, keep this in mind too. I did say that fructose is fruit sugar, and it's the form of sugar present in fruits and a lot of vegetables. But fructose is not problematic like that when it's still inside of the fruit or the vegetable. It's not nearly like that because it's in its natural state with the fibers and everything that would normally accompany it. So it's not as problematic. Not nearly like it is whenever it's extracted in the form of, corn syrup and all that kind of stuff. So that's why when we consume a lot of these beverages that have a lot of fructose or sucrose or whatever, that's why these things are so bad for you and I. They're very bad for us, y'all. Very bad because they're going in and they're gumming up our proteins and causing us to age faster and increasing our risk of diabetes and again catastrophic events like strokes and heart attacks. All right. So now the main reason that I wanted to do this webinar this morning is to kind of give you steps on what you can do. Now, again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm one who is very enthusiastic about health and fitness, and I do a lot of my own research and studies on it. Okay. But I'm not a physician. Make sure you consult your physician or your doctor before you make any changes to your lifestyle. That said, be aware that there are a lot of things that we do to contribute to the development of these issues of type 2 diabetes, and related disorders. Okay. That's why a lot of these are called preventable because they're related to lifestyle. Okay. Now, first of all, you can lower your A1C by lowering your carbohydrate intake. Now, sometimes carbohydrates get a bad rap because we had way back when this whole Atkins thing, and there's keto and paleo. Now, I'm not saying I have an issue with any of those kind of things, but it's not just the lowering of carbohydrates. It's really the lowering of very specific carbohydrates, mainly processed carbohydrates. So it's something that a human had their hand in creating packaged stuff, packaged breads and candies and soft drinks and whatnot. Now, sometimes people might do good with kind of also lowering other more natural carbohydrates here and there, like bananas or maybe sometimes like white potatoes and stuff. Um, but mainly, when I talk about lowering carbohydrates, you really want to lower the processed ones, the packaged ones, okay? So, and again, especially if you want to lose weight, it might be a good idea for you to restrict the other ones a little bit. But it's mainly those processed carbs that are like causing this glycation here. Second thing is not eating late. Now, this might be a webinar for another time, but it just so happens that the time of day that you eat really does matter in regard to like your blood sugar levels and whatnot. Because typically toward the beginning of the day, your body is more ready to process sugar and whatnot, but then toward the end of the day, this has to do with our circadian rhythm. Toward the end of the day, your body is kind of getting into a different mode because it's about to go into repair, the sleep stages and all that kind of stuff. And so it's not really doing a whole lot of that blood sugar regulating activity. So blood sugar can go higher in those times. So you don't want to eat late. Typically I would say just aim for like not after 8 or something like that. Now I have to do better with that sometimes because sometimes getting, just being realistic, um, just the hustle and bustle of working and all that stuff will sometimes get in the way. But this is something I'm moving toward, and I actually would like to eat, kind of make my eating time end at 7. That's my goal. So lower your carbs, mainly your processed carbs. Don't eat late, like after 8 or so. Eliminate processed food. So I guess I kind of already said that. Processed foods are terrible. They're really bad. The fries, the soft drinks, the sweet tea, the um, candies, the white breads, all that kind of stuff. These things are problematic. Now, I'm not gonna be up here trying to act like I don't eat any of those. I do eat some of those sometimes. I just try not to make them the main part of my diet. Because again, these things, when we're giving these bodies, like we're the stewards of them. And so you have to understand, like when you're constantly popping those kind of foods and whatnot, like you're destroying yourself. And so it is what it is. It's like that's just kind of like something that you and I have to like reconcile with in our own selves. That we have to decide, is this what I want to do? Like w- you know, all the processed foods and man-made things before there was a time when none of that stuff existed, but it was like all of like life in its most natural form, including us, including the fruits and vegetables and all the other kind of things that we eat. So like everything was here for us to eat to like be healthy before we kind of started going and making all of our stuff. All of this stuff was here. Okay. So but you and I, um, when humans start making all of our things, you know, that kind of made it where you and I have a decision to make. Are we gonna eat all of this junk, or are we gonna like still intentionally fuel our bodies? Okay, we have to be a lot more intentional these days because of man-made processed foods. Number four, moving and exercising. So I specifically say moving and exercising because exercise is great. I'm a personal trainer, so I preach the exercise sermon all the time. But exercise still is icing on the cake. It doesn't replace movement. It's a big issue that we are immobile for so long throughout the day. We're not really designed to sit for hours and hours and hours. And so there are some negative effects that being sedentary for hours, or that exercising cannot undo. Even if you exercise for an hour a day, there's some things that happen to your body that exercise is not necessarily going to rectify. So you want to make moving a natural part of your lifestyle as much as possible. Okay. So you really want to do that and you want to exercise. A good place to aim for if you haven't been exercising is aim to get 30 minutes 5 days a week for starters. And that's not just cardio. Cardio is cool, but I actually prefer strength training. That means doing stuff to build muscle, and then more like high intensity training, like little bursts of activity, which is probably a little bit more akin, it's probably more useful in my opinion, than just kind of like running for a long, long time. I've done that too. Um, but even just the kind of changes you want to make to your body, losing fat, preserving and gaining muscle, you want to do more of resistance training and higher intensity activity. That's also going to increase your fitness levels, and as well as build muscle and cause you to carve off body fat and stuff like that. And then number five, which I've just alluded to a little bit here, is you need to build muscle. You need to build muscle. Build muscle. Build muscle. Because the thing is, muscle is not just something that you get when you look good or you want to be buff and fill in your shirt sleeves. Muscle is a sugar sponge. Because muscle requires a lot of energy to maintain, muscle um actually, when you increase your muscle mass, then it has an effect on helping to regulate your blood sugar significantly. So you want to gain muscle tissue, okay? And so it's going to require your body to use more energy, and so to maintain it. So it also has an effect of helping you to like I say, helping you to regulate your blood sugar as well as helping you to be more generally lean, okay? And then this is not really like a number six, but just keep in mind that sleep is also important in regard to A1C, because Well, one, getting full sleep is just gonna do better in regard to like your hormone levels and whatnot. It's gonna help you um, to keep your blood sugar lower because you're getting to go through the various bodily processes and your insulin levels. Insulin is a hormone, by the way. It's going to help to stabilize insulin levels, and also it's going to help to repair damage caused from glycation. Okay, because sleep is when your body repairs itself. Okay, all right. So what I want to do here, that's basically all I want to talk about here this morning. But I want to let me see something here. So I don't have them here, but I have a couple of resources that might be of interest to you. Um that could possibly assist you in creating a healthier lifestyle that's going to move you in the direction of not having so much sugar consumption and whatnot. One of them is my book called What You Can Do About Type 2 Diabetes. And let me see if I can share uh, share my screen here. So I have a book called What You Can Do About Type 2 Diabetes, and this book goes into more depth about different lifestyle things that you can do, that you and I can do to again, prevent diabetes, and then like truly, they say manage it, but like truly move in the opposite direction of diabetes. I put it that way. Okay, let me see if I can um, let me see something here. So, and I'm gonna see if this allows me to. Okay. Yeah. So here's my book. What you can do about type 2 diabetes. It's available on Kindle. It's also available as a paperback book. So you can go to Amazon, and I'll make sure where the link is going to be in the description. So this book will give you more strategies on things you can do. Now, so I'm not really going to medicine. That's not, of course, that's I don't need to be going that stuff anyway because I'm not a doctor or nothing like that. But I'm always interested in helping you to understand the lifestyle things that you and I do that contribute to such things so that we can move in the opposite direction, okay? And kind of make our lifestyles healthy, okay? And so the other book that I wanted to tell you about is my book called 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health. And I'm going to see if I can um, find the cover of this one here. Okay, yeah. And so let's see. And that here's how that book looks. Um, where's it at? Sorry, y'all. Here it is. Okay. And my book, 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health, is a what I refer to as fat loss workbook. It's a fat loss workbook. And it literally has 8 weeks worth of changes. It guides you through 8 weeks of changes that you can make to your lifestyle and your diet, to make your diet a healthier one. Bite-sized things, so you're not necessarily overwhelmed, and you have space to write in, to take notes, to kind of check off as you go through each day, and yeah. So these are a couple of resources I have that could be of help. Links are in the description so that you can get your hand on copies of these. Okay. All right. Good stuff. So I think I've gone long enough. Let me know if this has been helpful to you in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, and y'all have a great day.